The stars above Tau Ceti burned like cold, indifferent eyes as the Zereth Dominion's fleet hovered over the ruined human colony. Fragments of orbital habitats drifted among trails of molten debris, glowing faintly against the void. High Admiral Kareth Vorn watched the spectacle from the command bridge of his flagship, Omen of Empire, his expression a portrait of disciplined boredom. The war, if one could even call it that, was no longer a challenge, just a ritual cleansing of pests. Local resistance neutralized, reported a sub-commander. No survivors detected. Kareth barely nodded. Efficient. Leave the remnants for the drones to process. We have others to purge before the cycle ends. Around him, officers moved with the serene precision of predators long accustomed to dominance. The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Opposition had become a novelty, not a threat. Humanity, scattered and primitive, was merely another ember to be extinguished. Yet one pair of eyes on the bridge betrayed unease. Envoy Tlyra, young by Zereth standards, studied the wreckage with an almost human discomfort. Admiral, she ventured, the humans fought harder than expected. Crude tactics, yes, but their colonies, they built them close to the sun, exposed. It's as if they wanted to be seen. Kareth gave her sidelong glance. And what of it? Exhibition is not strength, Envoy. It's vanity. Perhaps, she said softly, but even vanity has purpose. They broadcast distress calls instead of encrypting them. They wanted someone to hear. The Admiral dismissed her words with a flick of his taloned hand. Let them scream into the void. The void does not answer. Outside, the colony's core reactor imploded, sending a faint ripple of light through the system. Kareth turned away, unimpressed. To him, it was merely another sunset. Later, alone in his command chamber, he reviewed the conquest logs. Over the past year, the Dominion had erased 23 human enclaves. No counterattacks. No organized fleet response. Their species, once rumored to have defied greater empires, now seemed scattered and forgotten. He almost pitied them, almost. A transmission alert chimed. Admiral, came the voice of a communications officer. Our scouts have located another cluster of human activity. System Sol. It appears to be their homeworld. Kareth raised a brow ridge. Earth, he murmured, savoring the alien syllable. The mythic origin. I assumed it was long sterilized. Apparently not, said the officer. Though our probes report no active defense grid. The planet appears abandoned. Abandoned. The word carried a peculiar taste. Even the most stubborn species clung to their cradle world. For humans to abandon theirs, what had driven them to it? Kareth leaned forward, intrigued for the first time in cycles. Prepare the fleet for transit. Let us confirm the death of myth with our own eyes. The journey to Sol took days through the Dominion's slipstream corridors. The fleet exited into a system shrouded in silence. The sun still burned, smaller now, older. Earth turned below, cloud-wrapped and pale, its surface scarred but intact. Ancient satellites drifted like tombstones around it. Scan for life, Kareth ordered. None detected, replied Tlyra. Only automated beacons centuries old. No thermal signatures of habitation. Mars shows limited terraforming remnants. The system is empty. Karetha's crest lifted slightly. How disappointing. I had hoped for one final performance. He turned to the crew. Commence extraction operations. Strip their relics. If humanity truly lies dead, we shall profit from their corpse. The fleet descended upon the planets like locusts. Mining drones tore into Martian soil. Atmospheric probes dissolved into Venus's acid clouds. On Earth, the Omen's landing shuttles touched the Pacific, where the crust had split into deep oceanic fissures. Tlyra watched the readings. Admiral, there's a signal below the ocean floor. Low frequency, almost imperceptible. Artifact transmission. Possibly. But it's repeating, and ancient. Its code predates any known human encryption. Kareth frowned. Amplify it. The ship's core hummed as the signal echoed through the bridge, deep, rhythmic, like a pulse through stone. The sound made even seasoned officers shift uncomfortably. It's a distress beacon, Tlyra whispered. Timestamp. Admiral, it's dated 1 million years ago. Laughter erupted from the crew pit. One of the officers sneered, a malfunction surely. A human toy whispering to ghosts. But Kareth did not laugh. The signal continued, slow and deliberate, transmitting a single word across the comm display. Sol. Moments later, the fleet's communications array went haywire. Every Dominion relay within light years lit up, carrying the same signal outward, reflecting, amplifying, until it touched every corner of the known network. "Admiral," cried the comms officer, "it's spreading through our own systems. We can't contain it." Kareth stared at the screens, his composure fracturing for the first time. "Shut it down." "We can't. The signal's rewriting command protocols, routing through layers older than the Dominion archives." The Admiral rose slowly, his gaze fixed on the earth below. The ocean glowed faintly, illuminated by something vast and geometric beneath the waves. It pulsed once more like a heartbeat. Clara's voice was almost reverent. "They're answering, Admiral." Kareth turned sharply. "Who?" "Whoever sent it." He stepped toward the viewport, the blue planet reflecting across his dark eyes. The arrogance that once anchored him now felt hollow. For the first time in countless campaigns, he could not predict what came next. "Lock all frequencies," he ordered. "No transmissions. No responses. We wait." Outside, the fleet drifted in formation, engines silent, weapons armed. The ocean's glow intensified, spiraling outward in impossible patterns, symbols older than any known script. The Dominion sensors strained to interpret them, but the data dissolved into static. Clara watched the readings flatten. "It's gone silent again." Kareth exhaled slowly. "Good." Yet as he turned to leave, the main view screen flickered, showing for an instant what looked like a human silhouette, tall, indistinct, standing amid water and light. Then it vanished. A long, cold silence followed. Clara whispered, "Admiral, what if humanity isn't gone?" Kareth paused by the doorway, his reflection fractured in the glass. "Then, Envoy," he said quietly, "we may have just reminded them where home is." Outside, Earth's oceans pulsed once more, slow, deliberate, alive. The Omen of Empire hung in orbit, its crew unaware that the signal they had unleashed would soon reach the edge of the galaxy. And far beyond the rim, in the darkness where no empire dared to travel, something stirred in answer. The signal had spread faster than light, echoing across Dominion space like the tolling of a buried bell. For 3 standard days, every relay, every ship, every planet that used the Dominion's communication grid had flickered with that same haunting pulse, steady, mathematical, alive. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The silence that followed was worse than any noise. High Admiral Kareth Vorn had not left the command deck since. His once regal posture had withered into a quiet vigilance, eyes fixed on the void beyond Earth's orbit. Around him, the bridge was a muted chorus of technicians and officers murmuring diagnostics they did not understand. "Gravitational anomalies are forming near the galactic rim," reported one. "They're replicating in symmetrical intervals. Admiral, they resemble wormholes." "Caused by the signal?" Kareth asked without turning. "Unclear. But, sir, they're stable. No natural phenomena could maintain such patterns." He said nothing. The Admiral had spent his life dismantling civilizations that thought themselves clever. None had ever felt like this. None had ever made the void itself listen. Envoy Clara stood beside him, her usual calm replaced with wary fascination. "You realize what this could mean," she said. "If the humans truly sent that beacon 1,000,000 years ago, and it was meant to be reactivated only now, then what's opening out there is not random. It's a return." Kareth's throat tightened. "Return from where?" Clara's gaze lingered on Earth, its wounded oceans still shimmering faintly from the signal's awakening. From wherever they went to become something that could wait 1,000,000 years. The bridge lights dimmed as the sensors screamed in unison. A ripple of distortion tore through the holographic display, stars bending, time distorting. From the edge of known space, the wormholes flared open like dark flowers blooming in reverse. "Contact!" shouted an officer. Multiple signatures emerging, unknown class, unknown configuration. Reading human transponders, but the data format is prehistoric, predating even sublight archives. Kareth straightened. On screen, the void filled with shapes unlike anything the Dominion had catalogued, massive, angular constructs that moved without visible propulsion. Their hulls were forged from material that devoured light, shimmering faintly with patterns that resembled living circuits. Each vessel carried the silent gravitas of a monument. "They're not transmitting," said Clara. "No standard hails. No visual response." "Of course they're not," Kareth murmured. "Predators don't announce themselves." One of the larger ships shifted position. Sensors tried to lock on and failed. Then a voice broke across every channel, calm and human, resonating through every Dominion frequency. To the forces occupying Sol, it said, "You are trespassing on protected territory. Withdraw immediately." The voice was neither mechanical nor angry, merely measured, as though it had said these words countless times before. Karetha's jaw tightened. "This is an open channel," he replied. "Identify yourself." Silence. Then again the same voice. "Withdraw immediately." He felt his temper rise. "You issue threats from the grave? Humanity is extinct." The response came almost gently. "Incorrect." Before Kareth could speak again, one of the new arrivals moved. It didn't accelerate or warp. It simply shifted, as though space itself rearranged around it. A single beam of blue-white light lanced outward, brushing the surface of a nearby moon. There was no explosion, no shockwave, only absence. The moon was gone. Gasps rippled through the bridge. Clara's fingers tightened on the console. "Admiral, that wasn't a weapon. It was a deletion." Kareth stared at the empty space where celestial body had existed for eons. "Transmit to the fleet," he ordered, his voice colder than the void. "Battle stations." The Dominion armada deployed in silence, ships fanning out around Earth like a halo of steel. Karetha's eyes never left the alien, no human, formations ahead. He had fought 1,000 wars, crushed empires without hesitation. Yet something deep and instinctive whispered caution. "Perhaps we should open negotiations," Clara said. "We do not negotiate with ghosts," Kareth snapped. The Dominion fleet fired as one. Streams of plasma and ion bursts crossed the void, colliding where the human vessels floated. The barrage should have shattered anything that existed in real space. Instead, the human fleet shimmered, and the weapons vanished into nothing. The next instant, half the Dominion ships were simply gone. No explosions. No debris. Just silence. Kareth gripped the console. "Report." "We're losing systems across the network," shouted an officer. "Their attacks bypass shields, bypass physics itself. Admiral, they're rewriting the laws of engagement mid-battle." Clara's voice was hushed. "It's not a battle. It's a demonstration." Across the comms, the calm voice spoke again. "You have 15 minutes to comply. After that, reclamation will proceed." Kareth forced a breath through clenched teeth. "Send every ship, every drone. Target the lead vessel." As the Dominion regrouped, Clara's console began decoding fragments of the transmission protocol. Her eyes widened. "Admiral, these ships' command signatures are ancient Terran defense tags. They match the last recorded fleet humanity launched before disappearing. The Eidolon Initiative." Kareth turned sharply. "That was a myth." "So was extinction," she replied. The battle burned in silence. Dominion ships hurled themselves against the immovable human line, vanishing one by one. Karetha's flagship trembled as shock waves of folded space tore through its hull. He stared at the tactical display. Each human strike was exact, surgical, intentional. They weren't conquering. They were correcting. "What do they want?" he whispered. "Home," Clara answered. A sudden transmission pierced the noise, a direct hail from the human flagship. The Admiral accepted, and a figure appeared, a woman human, with eyes like dying stars. Her voice carried no malice. "Hi, Admiral Kareth Vorn," she said. "You stand on the soil of our origin. We have no quarrel with your people. Withdraw, and you may yet live to remember this as mercy." Kareth stared, searching for weakness, but found none. "And if I refuse?" Her gaze didn't waver. "Then history will." The connection cut. The Dominion fleet began to scatter, confusion spreading like infection. Karetha's knuckles whitened as he clenched the console. "We hold the system," he growled. But as he spoke, the stars themselves shifted. The human fleet vanished, not through hyperspace, but through time, their trajectories scattering in every direction simultaneously. Within moments, they were gone. Only the silence remained. Clara looked at the data streaming in. They're appearing across the galaxy. Simultaneously. Dozens of sectors reporting incursions. They're not invading, they're reclaiming lost ground. Kareth turned toward the fading image of Earth. "A species that waits 1,000,000 years to answer a call doesn't make threats," he murmured. "It delivers consequences." The bridge fell still. Outside, the blue planet hung serene and untouchable once more, but its oceans glowed faintly, as if something vast beneath them had awakened and was listening. Clara broke the silence. "Admiral, what do we tell the Senate?" Karatha's voice was quiet, stripped of pride. "Tell them," he said, "that humanity has returned." And far beyond the Dominion's edge, countless wormholes. The galaxy trembled beneath the weight of new fear. For the first time in living memory, the Dominion's outer colonies had gone dark, entire sectors silent, communication grids collapsing one by one. What little information filtered back to the core spoke of black ships that moved without propulsion, of weapons that left no wreckage, only erasure. Some whispered that the gods of war had returned. Others used an older name. Humans. High Admiral Kareth Vorn stood before the Dominion Council, his voice echoing through the amphitheater of obsidian stone. "We are not facing remnants or survivors," he declared. "We are facing a civilization that chose to disappear. And now they've chosen to return." The counselors murmured among themselves, dismissive, half-curious. They were ancient, complacent, their empires unchallenged for eons. "Your fear is unbecoming, Admiral," one of them sneered. "A few phantom fleets appear, and you speak of apocalypse." Karetha's eyes burned with restrained fury. "I watched them delete moons. I watched our ships vanish into equations no mind here can interpret. These are not ghosts. They are the architects of silence." The council laughed, arrogance echoing like hollow thunder. Only one voice remained quiet, Envoy Tlyres. She watched her mentor stand alone before the weight of ignorance and felt the same unease that had haunted her since Earth's awakening. When the session adjourned, she followed him out into the corridor. "You knew they wouldn't listen," she said softly. "I hope they'd remember how to listen," he replied, his tone weary. "But power deafens faster than time." Outside the council spire, the skyline of the Dominion capital shimmered under twin suns, vast and serene. Kareth looked at it, wondering how long it would last. "When fear comes for them," he said quietly, "it will not knock. It will arrive already inside the walls." Days later, the first of the Dominion's core worlds fell. There were no invasions, no armies, only silence. Shipyards deconstructed themselves, turning to dust. Power grids rewired into unfamiliar patterns. In every system, a single message appeared on the central displays: reclamation underway. Kareth received the reports aboard his flagship, each one colder than the last. He turned to Tlyra. "They're not conquering. They're reclaiming what was theirs." She nodded. "Then the question isn't what they want. It's what we took from them." A flicker of static cut through the bridge's main hollow display, resolving into the image of a human woman. Her face was calm, almost mournful. Kareth recognized her instantly. Admiral Mirasalis, the voice that had spoken from the abyss above Earth. "Hi, Admiral," she said, her tone precise and unthreatening. "I offer dialogue before continuation. The Dominion's aggression was unprovoked. We seek restoration, not annihilation." Kareth hesitated. "Restoration of what?" "Of order," she answered simply. "And of truth. You've built an empire upon the graves of those who chose silence. But silence is not surrender. It's patience." Tlyra leaned forward. "If you wanted peace, why not send envoys instead of weapons?" Myra's expression softened. "Because we tried that once, and no one listened." The transmission ended. Kareth stood frozen for a moment, feeling something he hadn't felt since his youth: humility. The humans weren't here to avenge their extinction. They were here to correct history itself. That night, he watched archived human footage from before their disappearance. Endless wars, desperate victories, moments of unity bought with pain. He saw in them a reflection of what his own people had become, an empire bloated by its own certainty. "Admiral," Tlyra said from the doorway, "what will you do?" He didn't turn to face her. "The Council refuses to see reason. They'll fight until nothing's left to rule. But I've seen their eyes, Tlyra. Those humans, they fight like a species that remembers extinction. I'll not be the fool who teaches them to repeat it." He sent a coded signal, an unauthorized attempt to contact Mirasalis. To his surprise, she answered. Her voice was softer this time. "You've decided." "I have questions," he said. "Why now? After 1,000,000 years?" "Because time doesn't heal what was never dead," she replied. "We were hidden, not gone. We waited for those who burned our home to make the same mistake twice. You completed the circle." Kareth exhaled. "And the rest of us? What becomes of the ones who didn't know?" "That depends on what you choose to become." The connection severed. Moments later, Dominion ships began to vanish from the star maps, not destroyed, but folded into human formations. Defectors, Kareth realized. Even their machines were choosing sides. Tlyra approached him quietly. "Admiral, if we resist, we die. If we kneel, we lose everything." "No," he said. "If we listen, we might learn what it means to survive." Outside the viewport, a distant star pulsed once, then again, slower, deliberate. The same rhythm as the signal that had awakened humanity. Kareth watched it flicker and thought, not of victory or loss, but of consequence. He turned to his crew, his decision finally set. "Prepare a channel to the human flagship," he ordered. "Let's see what a god of patience sounds like when spoken to as an equal." Tlyra met his gaze. "And the council?" "They've already lost their war," he said quietly. "They just don't know it yet." Beyond the glass, the stars rippled, folding space into shapes that shouldn't exist, each one a doorway into the kind of future the Dominion could neither predict nor control. Humanity's return had become more than vengeance. It was a mirror held to the galaxy itself, reflecting what every empire eventually forgets, that power is temporary, but memory is eternal. The Dominion fleet fell in silence, one star system at a time. The war had ended before it truly began. From the bridge of his flagship, High Admiral Kareth Vorn watched as once proud fleets dissolved into light, absorbed, disarmed, or simply erased. There was no fire, no fury, only the quiet precision of inevitability. Humanity did not roar back into the galaxy. It whispered, and the galaxy trembled. Kareth stood in the observation chamber as the last Dominion armada surrendered above their capital world. The ships drifted motionless, like corpses suspended in orbit. Beside him, Envoy Tlyra spoke softly, her tone half awe, half despair. "They offered us mercy when they didn't need to." Kareth's jaw tightened. Mercy is the cruelest weapon. It leaves you alive long enough to remember defeat. On every display, human fleets moved like shadows through the void, massive constructs bound together by pulsing light. They no longer looked like ships, but like thoughts given form, ancient machines and living matter fused into purpose. Each motion they made was deliberate, restrained, as though humanity fought not for conquest, but control over something deeper, themselves. A transmission request cut through the silence. It bore no Dominion insignia, only a simple mark, a circle divided by a single vertical line, the symbol of old Earth. Kareth accepted. Admiral Mira Salas appeared, her image composed of static and starfire. Her eyes were steady, ageless, carrying the weight of countless wars she had refused to repeat. "High Admiral," she said, her voice both calm and weary, "it's finished." Kareth didn't bow. "Is it? The Dominion still breathes." "For now," Mira replied. "We don't wish to erase life, only arrogance." He laughed bitterly. "Then start with us. We've nothing left but that." Her expression softened, the faintest shadow of sorrow touching her face. "You misunderstand. What we've seen in your people is not evil, it's memory repeating itself. The same hunger that once burned in us before we vanished into the dark." Kareth looked out at the stars, where human fleets glowed like watchful gods. "You returned to teach us a lesson." "To remind you of consequence," she said. "The galaxy forgot what humanity endured to reach the stars. We fought extinction more than once. We burned our home to survive. We became something that waited, that learned patience measured in epochs. When you struck Earth, you didn't awaken monsters. You awakened witnesses." Tlyra stepped forward, her voice trembling. "If you see yourselves in us, then why destroy us?" Mira regarded her carefully. "Because reflection means nothing if the mirror never cracks." The transmission widened, revealing the human flagship Eidolon in full. It was vast enough to eclipse a continent, its surface alive with flowing metallic veins, each pulse a heartbeat. Around it, wormholes bloomed like luminous scars in the fabric of space, opening to every known Dominion system. Kareth understood instantly. "You plan to take all," he said. "No," Mira answered. "We plan to give it back. To the species your empire buried. To the voices you silenced. We will rebuild what was stolen, and then we will leave." Kareth's eyes narrowed. "And us? What becomes of the Dominion?" Myra's gaze pierced him. "You will govern as you always have, but with understanding. You will answer for every world you ruled and every one you silenced. Power without fear is fragile. Power with fear becomes tyranny. What you need now is memory." For the first time in his life, Kareth had no answer. He realized that she wasn't threatening him. She was offering him a choice. Submission was survival, but acceptance was something greater. He looked at Tlyra, who met his gaze with quiet conviction. Perhaps this is what our history has been waiting for, she said. He turned back to Mira. You mean to leave the galaxy in our hands again? In your care, she corrected. The same way the stars once left it in ours. A pause lingered between them, an unspoken recognition that they were no longer enemies, but inheritors of the same cosmic burden. Kareth lowered his head. Then let it be written, he said quietly, that the Dominion learned fear, and from it wisdom. Mira nodded. Then our purpose here is complete. Outside, the Eidolon released a cascade of light. Wormholes aligned across the galactic map, forming an intricate lattice that spanned the void. It wasn't destruction, it was creation, a network of bridges and new frontiers. For every world the Dominion had crushed, a gate now opened toward rebirth. The human fleets began to withdraw, their forms dissolving into radiance. But as they faded, one signal pulsed again from Sol, low and resonant, the same heartbeat that had started it all. Clyra whispered, "They're leaving." Karetha's gaze followed the last of the ships until only the stars remained. "No," he said, "they're ascending." The Dominion's channels filled with silence. Then slowly Myra's voice echoed one final time across every relay. "Remember this piece. Guard it, because the moment you forget, so will we." The transmission ended. A great stillness fell across the galaxy. The Dominion fleet stood idle, waiting for orders that would never come. Kareth deactivated his command systems and stared at the black expanse ahead. "They could have destroyed us," he murmured. Clyra smiled faintly. "They did, just not the way we expected." He almost laughed, a quiet, tired sound that carried something like relief. Then perhaps that's mercy after all. They stood together at the viewport, watching the light of reborn wormholes fade into the distance. Beneath them, the Dominion's capital gleamed with unfamiliar brightness. Cities reawakening, systems restructured, life restored. Humanity had rewritten the map not through domination, but through remembrance. Kareth felt the strange weight of hope settle in his chest. "They waited 1,000,000 years, he said softly, "to remind us that time is only dangerous when wasted." Clyra turned to him. "And what now?" "Now," he replied, "we begin again." Far across the void, near the galactic edge, another anomaly shimmered, faint, rhythmic, deliberate. A signal, not human this time, but distant and unfamiliar, echoing back in answer. Kareth watched it appear on the sensors and smiled without fear. "The universe never stops talking," he said. "We were just too loud to listen." The stars pulsed once more, brighter than before, as if the cosmos itself exhaled in relief. The age of silence was over, and humanity's 1,000,000-year return had rewritten not only the fate of empires, but the destiny of the galaxy itself.